"I'm sorry, sir. I can't hold the resonance," the alien girl whispered. She did not know that the human data analyst had a plan. The solitary moon of the world Xylos, a cold pearl in the inky void, cast a ghostly light onto the planet's surface, which was covered in amethyst crystals. This world was the embodiment of silence, and for many people accustomed to the noise and bustle, it would have been unbearable. But for Jack Corbin, it was home. Here, among the endless silence and the majestic amethyst spires, he had found refuge from what had been haunting him for 10 years. 10 years ago, during the Titan 7 disaster, Jack was the lead communications analyst. His job was to ensure uninterrupted communication between the research teams and the command center. But during a powerful solar storm, a second before total chaos, his systems fell silent. The connection was lost. Jack could only watch in horror as data poured onto his screen, as those who fought for their lives, but he could do nothing. He lacked both experience and knowledge. After the disaster, he left the Colonial Communications Corps. A sense of guilt haunted him like a shadow. At 38, Jack looked more like a veteran astronaut than a former analyst. His body was wiry and lean, hardened by years spent in isolation. His hair, as dark as his gaze, was cut short, and he always had a 3-day stubble. He was used to solitude and spent his days in an old observation tower that surveyors had once left behind. His equipment consisted of vintage, yet incredibly powerful receivers that picked up even the faintest signals traveling through space. Jack listened to the whispers of the stars and the echo of ancient pulsars, and he felt that this was the only way he could get rid of the noise in his head. His only neighbors were the Sylvans, a local race that lived deep underground in crystal caves. They were beings made of pure energy and light, and their bright green skin shimmered like the northern lights. They rarely came to the surface, and their culture was built on resonance, a special frequency that permeated their entire society. Their cities were carved from crystals, their history was stored in crystal archives, and their communication was based on telepathy, which, in turn, was based on resonance. For the Sylvans, resonance was their spiritual path. That's why he was so surprised when he saw her. She stood at the entrance to his tower. Her bright green skin glowed, but the glow was intermittent and uneven. She was probably around 14 years old, and her body was fragile, like an ice sculpture. Her hair was the color of silver, and it shimmered softly in the light of the moon. But the most striking thing was her gaze, huge sapphire eyes, full of curiosity, in which there was not a hint of fear. She was the only one who dared to approach the human. Jack, without hesitation, stepped forward. "You can come closer if you want," he called, his voice, rough from disuse, echoing in the void. "I'm not dangerous." The girl flinched slightly, then took an uncertain step. Her hands were clenched into fists. "You are human," she whispered, and her voice was melodic, like the ringing of bells. "The one who listens to the void." Jack nodded. "That's me. Jack Corbin, the data analyst who hears what others can't," he said with a mock bow. "And you?" "Alara," she replied, not taking her eyes off his tower. "Alara. Well, Alara, want to take a look at what I do?" He motioned towards his tower. He was surprised himself that he had invited her in, as he had not let anyone into his sanctuary in all these years. She nodded eagerly, following him. Her eyes widened with admiration at the sight of the carefully organized chaos. He showed her the rows of monitors that displayed unimaginable data and the instruments he used to analyze and identify signals. "What's that?" she asked, pointing to a strange device that looked like an ancient crystal. "That's a resonating panel. I built it to understand how the sounds I hear affect the crystals," Jack explained, his voice sounding more and more inspired. "And this?" She pointed to another device, this time on his workstation. "A noise suppressor for corrupted data," he replied. "For those who can't find their clarity." For the next hour, Jack explained the principles of data analysis to her. Alara, in turn, asked surprisingly insightful questions that revealed her natural intelligence. He couldn't remember the last time he had such a genuine conversation. When she approached his desk, her hand involuntarily jerked, knocking a small, but very beautiful, crystal off of it, which rolled across the table. Jack managed to catch it before it shattered on the ground. "What's that?" Alara asked, mesmerized by the glowing crystal in his hand. This is a crystal resonator, used for storing energy." Jack tossed it in his hand. "You Sylvans make jewelry out of them, I know." "It's a resonance crystal," she corrected him, and her shoulders slumped. "I can't use it." And that's when Jack noticed something he hadn't seen before. She couldn't resonate with the crystal. Her skin glowed and then immediately faded. It was as if there was a constant source of interference in her body. Jack looked at her, then at his instruments. Something stirred in his chest, a feeling that he thought had died many years ago. His mind began to work, calculating and designing. "Take it," he said, placing the crystal in her hands. "It's yours." "But I can't." "Not yet." Jack interrupted her, winking. "But one day you will." When Alara left his tower that day, clutching the crystal in her hands, he was already sketching on a dirty tablet. For the first time in 10 years, he had a purpose that went beyond mere survival. What the young Sylvan did not know was that the human data analyst already had a plan. The next morning, Jack woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. He had spent half the night sketching out a resonance amplifier that would allow Alara to overcome the interference. Of course, he would need materials and the permission of her family. The latter would be much more difficult than the former. The Sylvans were a very closed-off people, and they were reluctant to make contact with outsiders. In his decade on the planet, Jack had learned to respect their customs, even if he didn't always understand them. Their social structure was complex, clan-based, with sages making decisions for the younger ones. After a quick breakfast of reconstituted protein, Jack gathered his tools and set off on his search. He needed to find out where Alara lived, and that meant he would have to ask the locals, something he rarely did. The underground market was bustling, with Sylvans trading goods. Their melodic language, like the ringing of bells, filled the air, punctuated by the rare sound of a mechanical hum. Jack approached Auric, a crystal merchant who had been one of his first customers many years ago. Orin, Alara's father, his four-fingered hand stroked his wrinkled chin. "They live in the deepest cave, a very traditional clan. The father, Orin Calum, is a sage. And this is him," his eyes narrowed. "Why is the human asking?" "Their daughter visited my tower yesterday," Jack replied. "I might be able to help her." Auric's face darkened. "Be careful, human. The columns follow ancient traditions. They believe that a lack of resonance is a sign of the solstices. These are signs that point to spiritual nonconformity. The girl's condition has brought shame to their house." "That's ridiculous," Jack blurted out before he could stop himself. "It's their way," Auric simply replied. "Not all cultures perceive flaws the way you humans do." Jack thanked him and headed for the deepest cave. He couldn't understand how such a technologically advanced culture as the Sylvans could hold such medieval beliefs. The Calum home was modest but well kept. It was built into a natural intertwining of crystals. Jack approached the entrance and pressed the panel. The door opened, and a tall, stern Sylvan appeared in the doorway. His green skin was darker and more weathered than Alara's. His silver hair was pulled back in the traditional hairstyle of clan elders. "What does the human need in my home?" His voice was cold. "My name is Jack Corbin. I met your daughter yesterday. I can help her." "You have no business with my daughter," the Sylvan interrupted him. "She should not have been near you. Do not come near her again." "Sir, I believe I can help her. I'm a data analyst, and I could create an amplifier for her." "By no means." Orin Calum's voice rose, and his face became darker. "You want to interfere with the will of the solstice? Her condition is her burden to bear." Before Jack could respond, a soft voice from inside said, "Father, who is it?" Alara appeared from behind her father. Her eyes widened when she saw Jack. She clutched the crystal he had given her, quickly hiding it behind her back. "Go inside, daughter," Orin commanded. "But father—" Alara looked at Jack hesitantly before disappearing into the house. "Listen," Jack tried again, keeping his voice level. "Where I'm from, we believe in helping people overcome physical challenges. This isn't interfering with a divine plan. It's using the gifts of intelligence and technology to improve life. That's why your kind is viewed with such suspicion throughout the galaxy," Orin replied. You humans always think you know better than ancient traditions. You meddle and change everything without understanding the consequences. The consequence here will be that your daughter can use her hands again, Jack said, feeling his frustration build. The consequence will be the disruption of her spiritual path and the natural order. Orin straightened up. We do not need human interference. Good day, Mr. Corbin. The door closed, leaving Jack standing alone. He stood there for a moment, weighing his options. Pushing further now would only anger Orin more, but he wasn't going to give up. As he turned to leave, he noticed a small movement in one of the side windows. Alara was watching him, her expression a mix of hope and resignation. She gave him a small wave. The crystal he had given her was visible on a shelf behind her. Jack nodded at her and walked away, his mind already formulating a new approach. The cultural gap was wider than he had expected, but not insurmountable. If he couldn't convince the father with a direct confrontation, maybe there were other ways. He felt more determined than ever. Somewhere in the clash between human ingenuity and Sylvan tradition, there had to be a middle ground. He just had to find it. 3 days passed with no sign of Alara. Jack threw himself into his work, but his thoughts kept returning to the young Sylvan and her father's stern refusal. He still began gathering the components for the amplifier. A high-quality titanium alloy salvage from a crashed cargo vessel, neural interfaces from an old medical scanner, and synthetic muscle fibers that would react to bioelectric signals. Night fell on Xylos, bringing a welcome relief from the scorching light of the suns. When a soft knock on his tower door broke Jack's reverie. He wiped his hands on a rag and cautiously approached the entrance. "Who's there?" he asked. "It's me," a whisper replied. "Alara." Jack quickly opened the door. The girl slipped inside. She was dressed in a dark cloak that concealed her glowing skin. Her eyes nervously scanned the street before Jack closed the door. "Does your father know you're here?" he asked, already knowing the answer. Alara shook her head. "He would be furious. But I had to come to warn you." "Warn me?" Jack frowned, seating her in a chair. "What's wrong, little one? After you left, my father called a clan council." Her voice trembled slightly. "The elders discussed you and other humans. They are afraid." "Afraid of what?" "I've been here for 10 years, and I've never caused any problems." Alara's large sapphire eyes met his. "There are rumors that you humans create monsters that destroy resonance, that you study weaknesses to exploit them." She looked at her hands. "My father thinks you want to study me. That's why you offered to help. That's a complete." Jack growled, then softened his tone when he saw Alara flinch. "I'm sorry, but that's not true. None of it." "I know," she said quietly. "That's why I came. I don't believe these stories." Jack ran a hand through his hair, his mind working furiously. "Where are these rumors coming from?" "From Traxian merchants. They visit our settlement twice a year. They bring news from other planets." Traxians, Jack's jaw tightened. Nomadic merchants known for their cunning and manipulation. They had been spreading anti-human propaganda throughout the sector for many years, undermining Earth's diplomatic efforts. "And your father believes this nonsense?" Alara nodded solemnly. "Many believe it. The Traxians showed holograms, terrible things they claimed humans had done." "Fakes," Jack said firmly. "Propaganda. The Traxians have been trying to isolate humanity ever since we expanded beyond our solar system. They don't like the competition." He walked over to his desk and picked up the partial frame he had been constructing. "The beginning of the amplifier for Alara. This is what I wanted to do for you. Not to study you or harm you. To help you use your own resonance." He handed her the frame. "Humans build things, Alara. We fix things. That's our nature." She examined the intricate metalwork with wonder. "It's beautiful, and it will be functional, responsive to your nervous system. You'll be able to feel with it. Move naturally." He paused. "Maybe one day you'll be able to resonate with a crystal." Alara's eyes glistened. "My father will never allow it. Because of these rumors, but also because of our traditions. The will of the solstice cannot be challenged." She added hesitantly, "There's something else. My dissonance. It wasn't an accident." Jack's brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" "In our culture, children who show too much curiosity about outsiders." She searched for the word. are punished. I was caught talking to a human last year. The clan elders assigned my punishment. They took away your ability? Jack felt a cold rage bubbling up inside him. Not the elders. Traxian enforcers. They handle complex issues for many settlements. Her voice dropped to a whisper. They said it would remind me of my place. God, Jack muttered, trying to contain his anger. This goes beyond cultural differences. This is cruelty disguised as tradition. The Traxians are returning in 3 days, Ilara continued. There will be a meeting. My father plans to speak out against you, to demand that you leave Xylos. Jack's mind was already formulating a plan. The Traxians were the real problem. They were manipulating the Sylvans, using fear to maintain control. If he could expose their lies. Ilara, I need you to tell me everything you know about these Traxians, their ships, their security, their routine. She looked uncertain. Why? Because I'm going to show your people the truth. He placed a hand on her shoulder. I'm not going to harm anyone, but I can't let these lies continue. Ilara studied his face, looking for something in his expression. Whatever she saw there, it satisfied her because she nodded. Their ship lands on the western plateau. They bring guards, 6 to 8. They have weapons, not like any I've seen. And the holograms, the propaganda, are stored in a projection device. Their leader, named Korvax, always keeps it with him. Jack nodded, memorizing the details. You need to go home before you're missed. But, Ilara, he held her gaze. I promise you, I will help you use your hands again, and I will show your people who the real monsters are. When she left in the night, Jack returned to his desk with a new determination. He had 3 days to complete the amplifier and devise a plan to expose the Traxians. It was risky, but he had faced worse odds in the Colonial Communications Corps. For the first time in years, Jack felt the familiar rush of adrenaline that came with a mission. The reputation of humanity and the future of a young girl depended on his success. As dawn broke over Xylos, Jack sat at his encrypted communications terminal, a device he hadn't used in years. Hidden beneath a false panel, this terminal was the very life he had left behind. He had kept it in perfect condition, knowing that someday he might need it. Today was that day. The terminal hummed, connecting to Earth's secure military network through a series of signals designed to mask his location. After a series of authentication protocols, a face appeared on the screen. It was rough, more wrinkled than Jack remembered, but it was undoubtedly Admiral Thorn. Well, I'll be, Thorn said, her surprise quickly giving way to military stoicism. Analyst Jack Corbin. Intelligence declared you deceased 7 years ago. Sorry to disappoint them. Jack replied with a half-smile. 10 years, Corbin. 10 years of silence. Thorn's eyes narrowed. The Titan 7 disaster. It wasn't your fault. You didn't have to disappear. I needed distance, Jack said simply. But that's not why I'm calling. He quickly briefed Thorn on the situation, the Traxian propaganda, their manipulations, and their systematic campaign to turn alien species against humanity. This confirms the intelligence we've been gathering, Thorn nodded. The Traxians are causing problems in 17 systems. Their trade monopoly depends on keeping species isolated, especially humans. We're too good at trade. I need help, Thorn. Nothing big, just enough to provide protection for the locals if things go sideways. Thorn rubbed her chin. You're in luck. We have a stealth corvette running reconnaissance in your sector. Commander Vale. Remember her? Jack's eyebrows went up. Vale? The camouflage specialist from Titan? The one. She's now a commander, leading our counterintelligence operations against the Traxians. I'll reroute her to your coordinates. But, Corbin, this is off the books. Officially, you're still a ghost. Understood. Just need enough firepower to make the Traxians think twice. Vale should arrive in about 48 hours. That should give you time to get ready. Thorn paused. Good to see you're still in the fight, Corbin. I'm not an analyst anymore, Thorn. If you were in the Colonial Corps, you're always a part of it, son. The commander's face softened for a moment. End of transmission. The screen went black. Jack let out a slow breath. He didn't expect the wave of emotions that came over him with reconnecting to his past. For 10 years, he had been just an analyst. No responsibilities other than keeping his small world alive. Now he was a soldier again, with all the consequences that came with it. He closed the hidden compartment and returned to his workbench, where the amplifier for Alara was taking shape. The intricate neural interface was designed to connect directly to her nervous system, translating her brain's signals into fluid movements. It was his best work, elegant, responsive, and powerful. Throughout the morning, his mind kept returning to the young Sylvan. Her courage in daring to go against her culture to warn him had stirred something in Jack that he thought had died on Titan 7. A willingness to trust, to care. By noon, he heard a familiar knock on the door. Alara slipped inside. "You came back," Jack said, putting down his tools. "I brought food," she replied, placing a small package on the table. "You forget to eat when you work." Jack smiled, surprised that she had noticed such a detail. "Thank you, little one. Is it ready?" Her eyes darted to the amplifier. "Almost. Come here." Alara approached cautiously, her gaze fixed on the gleaming gauntlet. Jack helped her onto a chair and carefully measured her hands. "I need to make the final adjustments," he explained. "The neural interface has to be precisely calibrated to your nervous system." "Will it hurt?" she asked, her voice quiet. "There will be some discomfort during the initial connection," Jack admitted. "But after that, it should feel natural, like it's always been a part of you." Alara nodded, her jaw set with determination. "I am ready." Jack leaned closer. "I know you are," he said, his voice softening. "You're one of the bravest people I've met, and I've served with some pretty courageous soldiers." Her head tilted curiously. "You were a warrior?" "Colonial Communications Corps, data analyst, special operations." He rarely talked about his military past, but something about Alara's direct gaze made evasion pointless. "I specialized in biological systems and intelligence gathering." "Is that why you're so good at making things?" Jack nodded. "Partly. The rest is just practice and stubbornness." As he worked on the final adjustments, Alara watched intently, asking questions about each component. Her mind and curiosity reminded Jack why he had decided to help her in the first place. "I contacted some colleagues," he said carefully. "They'll be here tomorrow to help us deal with the Traxians." Alara's eyes widened. "More humans are coming here?" "Just a small team, specialists." He connected the neural conduit to the amplifier's interface. "We're going to expose the Traxians' propaganda and show your people the truth." "And how will we do that?" she asked. Jack smiled. With this, he held up the completed amplifier, its surface gleaming in the light. "We'll test it tomorrow night. If all goes well, you'll walk into that meeting with 2 fully functioning hands. Living proof that humans create, not destroy." Alara stared at the amplifier. "My father will be furious." "Probably," Jack conceded. "But sometimes you have to break tradition to move forward. Humans learned that lesson centuries ago." He carefully placed the amplifier on its charging station. "Come back tomorrow at sunset. We'll do the procedure then. Commander Vale should be here by then with medical supplies to make everything go smoothly." Alara stood up. "What if it doesn't work?" "It will work," Jack said with a confidence that once led soldiers into battle. "I promise." After she left, Jack returned to his communications terminal and sent the encrypted coordinates to Vale's Corvette. Then he began preparing his workshop for the procedure, clearing a space and sterilizing surfaces. As he worked, a plan was forming in his head. The Traxians were using fear and tradition to turn the Sylvans against humanity. Tomorrow, he would show them the power of human ingenuity and compassion, one step at a time. The next day brought an unexpected complication. Jack was fine-tuning the neural sensor when his security system chirped, a silent alert indicating unusual electromagnetic activity nearby. He activated a scanner hidden in the outer wall of his tower and frowned at the results. "Surveillance tech," he muttered. "Military grade." The scanner detected 3 devices within a 50-meter radius of his tower. One on a power cable across the street, another under a market stall in the corner, and a third on his own rooftop. The technology was unmistakably Traxian. Compact, sophisticated, and nearly invisible to standard scanners. Jack carefully maintained his normal routine, moving about the tower as if unaware of the surveillance. Inside, his mind was racing. The Traxians weren't supposed to arrive for another day, according to Alara. Their early surveillance suggested they knew something was up. When he was sure he was in a blind spot between the cameras, Jack activated his emergency beacon, a coded pulse that would alert Commander Vale to the changed situation without revealing their connection. By noon, a response came through his hidden terminal. Accelerating arrival, ETA, 6 hours. Maintain caution. Vale, 6 hours. That meant Vale would arrive just after sunset, at the same time Alara was supposed to return for the procedure. Jack will have to work quickly. He spent the entire day making the final adjustments to the amplifier. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over Xylos, Jack felt a presence outside his tower. "We have a problem," he said quietly, pulling her away from the windows. "The Traxians arrived early. They've set up surveillance around my tower." Alara's eyes widened. "But how? The meeting is not until tomorrow. They must have informants in the settlement." Jack walked over to the amplifier, which gleamed on his desk. "We need to hurry. My colleagues will be here soon, but we need to complete the procedure before that." Alara looked at the amplifier, a mix of fear and determination in her eyes. "I am ready." Jack nodded and helped her lie down on the prepared medical table. He injected a local anesthetic into the nerve endings, connecting the conductors to her hands. He did it in a way that Alara wouldn't feel pain, but she could feel the changes happening in her body. "This will help you while we connect the amplifier," he explained. "The neural interface must resonate with your nervous system. First, you'll feel a tingling, and then a warm feeling will spread through your body as your brain begins to perceive the new frequencies." Alara took a deep breath and nodded. Jack started the activation sequence, and the amplifier hummed, its internal components glowing with a soft purple light. Alara gasped, her fingers clutching the edge of the table. For a split second, Jack thought something had gone wrong, but then the expression on her face changed from pain to surprise. "I feel it," she whispered. "Like it was always here." Jack helped her sit up, supporting her by the shoulders. "Take your time. Your brain is creating new neural maps." Alara looked at the amplifier, which was now seamlessly attached to her hands. The design was similar to what her clan members wore, but the metallic sheen and the subtle purple glow betrayed its artificial nature. "Try to clench your fingers," Jack instructed. Alara concentrated, and the amplifier's fingers clenched in response. Her face lit up with joy. "Now unclench." The joints moved smoothly, responding to her mental commands as if they were flesh and blood. "Ready to try to stand?" Alara readily nodded. Jack supported her as she slid off the table. She swayed slightly, then found her balance. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Strong," she replied, surprised by her own voice. "Stronger than before. The alloy is light, but stronger than bone. If necessary, you'll be able to punch through a wall with it." Alara took a hesitant step, then another. Each movement became more confident as her brain adapted to the new limb. Within minutes, she was walking around the workshop, only occasionally touching surfaces. "This is incredible," she said, tears glistening in her eyes. "I never thought that." Jack's security system's sharp beep interrupted her. He quickly went to the monitor. "Traxian ship," he said, pointing to the image of a sleek, predatory vessel descending towards the western plateau. "And they're not alone. Those are combat ships." Alara came to him, her new hands allowing her to cross the room in seconds. "They weren't supposed to bring warriors, only merchants and guards. They know something." Jack checked his chronometer. Vale should be here in less than an hour, but the Traxians will reach the settlement sooner. He made a quick decision, going to a hidden compartment and taking out his old EDF combat suit, a matte black one with reinforced joints and multiple equipment attachments. "Change of plans," he said, unceremoniously shedding his work clothes and pulling on the combat gear. "We need to buy some time." Alara watched as he transformed from an analyst into a soldier, her expression a mix of awe and anxiety. "What are you going to do?" Jack checked his blaster, then attached additional weapons to his hip and back. "First, I'll disable their surveillance. Then we'll show your people what the Traxians have really been doing." He paused, looking at her. "How fast do you think you can learn to run?" Alara's eyes narrowed with determination. Try to keep up, human. Jack smiled. Maybe humanity had more in common with the Sylvans than either species realized. Both could adapt, overcome difficulties, and face impossible circumstances with courage. Let's go, he said, activating the EMP devices that would blind the Traxian surveillance. Time to play big. The desert night was filled with tension as Jack and Alara slipped through the shadows. Her new amplifier worked flawlessly, each step confident and silent. "You're a natural," Jack whispered, amazed at how quickly she had adapted to the amplifier. "It feels like it's always been a part of me," Alara replied, making a perfect turn around a corner, as if it was waiting for me. They stopped at the edge of the main square, where a crowd had already gathered. 3 Traxian ships dominated the landing zone, the central trade vessel surrounded by 2 sleeker combat ships. The Traxians themselves stood out among the Sylvans. They were taller, with irrationally scaly skin and elongated limbs that ended in 4-fingered hands. Their leader, presumably Korvax, was addressing the crowd from a raised platform. "We will protect you from human aggression," he said, his voice amplified by a translator. "Their expansion threatens all peaceful species. Their technology corrupts. Their intentions are clear." Behind him, a holographic display showed images of alleged human atrocities. Medical experiments, weapons tests, planetary destruction. All of it was fabricated, as Jack knew, but it was convincing to those who had limited contact with humans. "We need to get closer," Jack muttered. "I need to get access to their projection system." "My father is there." Alara pointed to the front row of the crowd, where Orin Calum stood with other clan elders. "He looks worried." Before they could move, Jack's comm unit vibrated on his wrist. He checked the display and smiled. "Vale is here early." As if on cue, a faint flickering light appeared in the night sky. The stealth corvette came out of hiding just enough to be visible to those who knew what to look for. A few moments later, Jack's earpiece hissed. "Corbin, this is Vale. We are in a tactical position above the settlement. A team of 4 is ready for a ground invasion, awaiting your signal." "Received," Jack replied quietly. "The target is the Traxian projection system. We need to replace their propaganda with real evidence." "Already working on it. The team is moving to your position in 3 minutes." Jack turned to Alara. "Change of plans. We have reinforcements, but we still need a distraction." A commotion at the edge of the crowd caught their attention. Orin Calum stepped forward, challenging Korvax. "These accusations against the human are serious." Orin's voice rang out across the square. "However, for 10 cycles, Jack has not harmed our people. He trades honestly, respects our ways." Korvax's expression darkened. "The human deceives you. Even now, he is plotting against your traditions. Ask yourselves why he is hiding tonight, instead of facing these accusations head-on." "I'm not hiding," Jack shouted, stepping into the open. All eyes turned to him. A shock passed through the crowd when they saw his combat gear and weapons. Korvax's hand reached for his weapon. The human reveals his true nature, armed and dangerous. "I am armed because you brought combat ships to a trade post," Jack replied calmly, approaching them. "That seems excessive for a peaceful visit." The Traxian guards standing next to Korvax raised their weapons, but Jack continued his confident movement. He needed their attention to be focused on him while Vale's team took up position. "The human lies," Korvax hissed. "We are protecting you from his kind. See the evidence." He pointed to the horrifying images that were still showing behind him. "Fakes," Jack said. "Just like the rumors you've been spreading about humans creating monsters." "Tell me, Korvax, why would a species that can do this?" He stopped and turned to the shadows. "Need to create monsters?" As if on cue, Alara stepped into the light. A collective gasp rose from the crowd as she moved fluidly and confidently into the square. "Alara." Orin Calum's voice trembled with disbelief. "How is this possible?" "The human has restored my ability, Father," she said, her voice clear and strong. "Not a crude replacement, but a true resonance that feels and moves like my own." Orin approached slowly, looking at the amplifier in amazement. "This is human technology." "Human compassion," Jack corrected. "Something the Traxians tried to erase from your understanding. Korvac snarled. This is a trick. The human has corrupted the girl's mind along with her body. No corruption, Elara replied, standing straight. Only healing. What your enforcers took from me as punishment for my curiosity. A murmur went through the crowd as this revelation sank in. Oren's expression became hard as he turned to Korvax. Your enforcers did this to my daughter? The girl broke tradition, Korvax said dismissively. The punishment was approved by your own elders. Under false pretenses, Jack interjected. The Traxians have manipulated dozens of species, isolating them from human contact to maintain their trade monopoly. They aren't protecting you, they're controlling you. Korvax raised his weapon. Enough. The human dies tonight. Before he could fire, four figures in black descended from the sky, landing in strategic positions around the square. Commander Vale. Her face was hidden by a tactical helmet. She moved with deadly precision to disarm the nearest Traxian guard. Earth Defense Forces, she announced, her voice amplified. Weapons down. The square descended into chaos. The Traxian guards opened fire, while the Sylvans scattered for cover. Jack pushed Elara towards her father, then drew his weapon. Get her to safety, he yelled to Oren. To his surprise, Oren did not retreat. Instead, he stepped forward, placing himself between his daughter and the Traxians. No more, he declared. No longer will we be manipulated by outsiders who claim to protect while they control. The other Sylvans rallied around him, forming a protective circle around Elara. Vale's team moved with practiced efficiency, neutralizing the Traxian resistance with precise stun shots. Korvax, seeing his advantage disappearing, desperately rushed for his ship. Jack intercepted him, tackling the Traxian leader to the ground. The evidence. Jack roared, pinning him down. Where is the real data? Korvax struggled, his scaly skin slippery in Jack's grip. You've ruined everything. Decades of painstaking work. Captain, Vale called, throwing something to him. Jack caught it with one hand. It was a data extraction device. He pressed it against Korvax's personal terminal, bypassing the security protocols with EDF codes. Download complete. Vale confirmed a few seconds later. Projecting now. The holographic display above the square flickered, then changed. Instead of fabricated atrocities, it showed the truth. Traxian communications detailing their systematic campaign to isolate developing species, their manipulation of cultural traditions to maintain control, and their specific targeting of human-alien relations. The Sylvans watched in stunned silence as their decade-long relationship with the Traxians was revealed as a complex deception. Oren Kalem stepped forward, his expression grim but determined. We have been blind, he announced to his people. The ancestors teach us to value truth above all else. Today we have seen it. He turned to Jack, who was still holding Korvax immobilized. The human has shown us more respect in this act of honesty than the Traxians have in generations of trade. Elara came to stand beside her father, her amplifier gleaming in the light of the projections. He gave me back what they took, father. Not just my ability, but my future. Oren studied his daughter for a long time, then did something that was unprecedented. He bowed his head to Jack. The Kalem clan acknowledges our debt to you, Jack Corbin. You have honored us with truth and healing. As Vale's team apprehended the remaining Traxians, Jack realized that the events of this night had changed everything. Not just for Elara, but for the relationship between humans and Sylvans. Sometimes the most powerful weapon wasn't a blaster or a combat ship, but a simple act of compassion. And sometimes the most important step was the very first one. 10 years later, the diplomatic ship, Harmony, smoothly entered orbit around Xylos. Its sleek lines were a testament to human engineering. Commander Jack Corbin stood at the viewport, his dark eyes scanning the familiar desert landscape below. At 52, his short hair was graying, but his military bearing and powerful physique remained unchanged. Nervous? Admiral Thorne, now with a full white beard, asked. Curious, Jack replied. 10 years is a long time. After the incident with the Traxians, Jack had reluctantly accepted a position in Earth's diplomatic corps. His unique understanding of Sylvan culture had made him invaluable as humanity established official relations with the world. What was supposed to be a temporary assignment had turned into a decade-long career spanning 17 systems. "The Sylvan delegation is ready to receive us," the communications officer announced. Jack nodded, adjusting his dress uniform. This visit marked the culmination of years of work, the signing of a mutual defense treaty that would officially bring Xylos into Earth's Protection Alliance. The shuttle ride to the surface was short, but it gave Jack time to admire the transformation below. The underground settlement had blossomed into a thriving city, where Sylvan architecture blended seamlessly with human technology. Solar arrays captured the harsh desert sunlight, powering systems that had turned parts of the landscape into green oases. They landed at the newly constructed Diplomatic Center, a stunning structure of local stone and transparent alloy that seemed to grow organically out of the desert floor. A delegation of Sylvan officials waited at the landing pad, led by a figure Jack immediately recognized despite the years. Oren Kalem had aged gracefully. His once dark green skin was now paler, and his silver hair was longer in the style of a revered elder. He took a step forward and, to Jack's surprise, extended his hand in the human greeting they had established years ago. "Commander Corbin," Oren said warmly, "the Kalem clan welcomes your return." "Elder Kalem," Jack replied, shaking the four-fingered hand. "It's good to see the settlement thriving." "Much has changed," Oren acknowledged, "largely because of your intervention a decade ago. The council awaits your delegation in the Great Hall." As they walked through the diplomatic center, Jack noticed the integration of human and Sylvan design elements. Practical human technology was softened by the fluid style of Sylvan art. Children of both species played together in a courtyard, their laughter a universal language. The Great Hall was impressive, a vast space with a transparent dome that offered a view of the two suns above. Members of the Sylvan Council were seated in a semicircle, their formal attire gleaming with traditional metalwork. In the center, in the position of council leader, sat a figure that made Jack's heart skip a beat. Alara Kalem had grown from a shy, traumatized girl into a commanding figure. Her silvery hair was elegantly styled, framing a face that had matured into striking beauty. Her green skin seemed to glow with health and confidence. She wore the official robes of her office, but they could not conceal her athletic physique, the legacy of years spent in full use of the mobility he had given her. Their eyes met across the hall, and for a moment, Jack was transported back to that first meeting. The curious girl looking on from afar. Her piercing sapphire eyes still held the same intelligence, but they were now softened by wisdom and authority. The formal proceedings passed in a blur of speeches and ceremonial gestures. Jack performed his diplomatic duties flawlessly, but his attention remained fixed on Alara, the way she commanded the room, the respect that was evident in how others deferred to her judgment, the subtle glances she would occasionally cast his way. When the treaty was signed and the official reception began, Jack finally had his opportunity. Alara approached him, moving with a grace that gave no hint of her amplifier. "Commander Corbin," she said, her melodic voice deeper than he remembered. "Or should I call you Ambassador now?" "Jack is fine," he replied, smiling. "Or is it Council Leader Kalem Alara?" she corrected, returning his smile. Some things should not change with titles. They moved to a quieter corner of the reception, away from the mingling diplomats. "Your father mentioned you were leading the council, but he didn't say you would transform the entire settlement," Jack said, gesturing toward the city beyond the windows. "I had a good foundation to build on," she replied. "A lesson about innovation, respect for tradition." Her eyes were fixed on his. "About healing old wounds. The amplifier? Is it still working well?" he asked. In response, she lifted the hem of her official robe just enough to reveal the gleaming amplifier, now adorned with intricate Sylvan patterns etched into its surface. "I made some aesthetic changes, but the core technology remains perfect." "And the resonance?" he asked, remembering the crystal he had given her all those years ago. Alara laughed, the sound sending an unexpected warmth through him. "Come with me. You have to see something." She led him through a series of corridors to an open field behind the diplomatic center. There, dozens of Sylvan children were engaged in a familiar game. They were launching crystals that resonated with music. "You started this?" Jack asked, watching a young Sylvan girl launch a perfect crystal. "The first cultural exchange program between humans and Sylvans," Elara confirmed. "I thought it was appropriate." As they watched the children play, Elara's hand found his. A bold gesture by Sylvan standards. "I kept that crystal," she said softly. "Even after you left, it reminded me that limitations could be overcome." The diplomatic reception continued without them as they walked the grounds. 10 years of separate lives compressed into hours of conversation. Elara described her rise to leadership, her efforts to balance Sylvan traditions with progress. Jack shared stories of his diplomatic missions, the worlds he had seen, and the alliances he had helped forge. When the two moons rose above the desert, they found themselves in a private garden, the night air cool. "I never properly thank you," Elara said, standing close enough for Jack to feel the warmth radiating from her. "For giving me back more than just an ability. You gave me a future." "You built that future yourself," Jack replied. "I just provided the tool." "Perhaps," she conceded, "but some tools change everything." Their first kiss was a hesitant one, a bridge between species, cultures, worlds. Their second was not. Later, in the privacy of Elara's quarters, they discovered that despite their physiological differences, some forms of connection transcended biology. Their coming together was both alien and familiar, strange and perfect, a dance of discovery and desire that left them both breathless with wonder. In the silence afterward, as they lay intertwined, Elara traced the old scars on Jack's chest, the marks of his military days. "Stay," she whispered, "not just for the treaty, but for this." "The Corps expects me back," he began, but found he couldn't imagine leaving again. "Xylos needs a permanent human ambassador," she countered. "One who understands our ways, who has already proven his commitment to our people." 3 months later, their union was officially sanctioned in a ceremony that blended human and Sylvan traditions. 6 months later, they faced their greatest challenge and joy. The discovery that, despite all scientific predictions, Elara was pregnant with their child. The first human-Sylvan hybrid in recorded history. Medical experts were baffled, but Jack wasn't. If humanity had proven anything, it was that the impossible just required perseverance, ingenuity, and a heart. On the day Elara felt the first kick of their child, she found Jack in his workshop, a larger, more complex version of the old tower where they first met. He was tinkering with a tiny amplifier, perfectly sized for an infant. "What's that for?" she asked, though she already knew. Jack looked up, his eyes crinkling with a smile that still made her heart race. "Just in case," he said. "I like to be prepared." Elara laughed and tossed him a small crystal. The same one he gave her all those years ago, now worn with age and use. "Our child will have to learn to resonate," she said, placing his hand on her rounded stomach. "From both of us." As their child moved beneath his palm, Jack thought about the journey that had brought them here. From a girl outcast who couldn't resonate, to a leader who transformed her world. From a lonely analyst hiding from his past, to a man who helped shape the future. Sometimes the most important fixes weren't in data, but in hearts. And sometimes the most meaningful plans were the ones you never knew you had. Jax Harlan wiped the grease from his hands on a rag that had seen better days, the acrid tang of lubricant hanging heavy in the air of Epsilon Station's repair bay. The orbital platform spun lazily around the swirling storms of Vortrex 7, a gas giant that belched plasma flares like an angry god. 6 months Jax had been here, fixing the guts of cargo haulers and fighter drones for creds that barely covered his bunk and synth beer rations. Ex-freighter pilot turned grease monkey life had a way of clipping your wings after one too many close calls with pirate ambushes. "Break time, you lot." 20 minutes. The shift boss, a hulking groon with tentacles for arms, bellowed over the hum of welding torches. Jack snagged his meal kit from the locker, a genuine Terran steak slab, vacuum-sealed, and shipped from the core worlds at a price that stung his wallet like a nebula wasp. Worth it, though. He trudged to his perch, a rusted gantry overlooking the bay's void-facing viewport, where the gas giant's auroras painted the stars in electric blues and violets. He slumped against a coolant pipe, the metal cool through his oil-stained jumpsuit, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms etched with faded tattoos from his piloting days, a comet trail wrapping a cracked helmet. He sliced into the steak, the sizzle of reheated juices making his mouth water, and took a bite that transported him back to dusty ranch world he'd hauled cargo across. A soft scuffle yanked him from the reverie. Inches away crouched a tiny figure, her skin a vivid emerald green that glowed faintly under the bay's harsh fluorescence, like bioluminescent moss in a cavern. Spiky tufts of silver hair stuck out in wild spikes around a heart-shaped face, and her amber eyes huge, luminous locked onto his with raw, feral need. She wore scraps of a jumpsuit, patched with foil from discarded ration packs, smeared in the station's metallic grime. Their stares collided in that split-second freeze. Then she pounced, yanking the steak from his fork and scampering off like a shadow in the vents. "Oi!" Jax yelped, lunging halfway up before his brain caught up. She was gone, darting between tool crates and vanishing into the labyrinth of conduits. His crewmate, a wiry avian named Scree with feathers like rusted wire, flapped over on Taloned feet. "What's the racket, Harlan?" "Spacer ghosts." Jax rubbed his jaw empty-handed. "Just some pint-sized thief nicked my lunch." Scree's beak clicked in amusement. "One of those vent rats again?" Station SEC's too busy chasing smugglers to bother with him. "Want me to squawk for patrol?" Jax peered into the gloom where she'd fled, a pang twisting in his gut, not anger, but something sharper, like regret for startling a wild thing. "Nah, let's slide." Scree tilted his head, one eye swiveling independently. "Softcore, eh? Those rats are multiplying. Command should fumigate the lower decks." "She's a kid, Scree." Jack shot back, sharper than he meant. The avian ruffled his plumes in mock surrender. "Whoa, pilot boy's got a heart under all that oil. Suit yourself." As Jax trudged back to the grind of torque wrenches and plasma cutters, hunger gnawing at his belly, those amber eyes haunted him wide as saucers, brimming with a desperation that echoed his own rougher days scraping by on frontier runs. 3 shifts later, Jax was elbow-deep in a drone's thruster array, cursing a stripped bolt, when a glint of green caught his eye in the underbelly of the station's recycle chute, a maintenance crawl space snaking through the habitat rings. He wiped sweat from his brow and slithered in after it, his broad frame scraping against the grates, the confined space reeking of ozone and recycled air. Quiet as a ghost in Null G, he rounded a bend and snagged a slender ankle. "Ever hear that spacers don't take kindly to light-fingered passengers?" he drawled, voice low and steady, like coaxing a skittish engine to life. The girl went rigid, then twisted slowly, those amber orbs flooding with tears that sparkled like liquid gold on her green cheeks. Her frame was fragile, bird-boned under the rags, trembling like a faulty stabilizer. "Pee, please. I didn't mean—" She stammered an accented galactic standard, her voice a chime of wind through crystal chimes. Jax eased back, keeping his grip light. "Name's Jax. What's yours, thief?" "Kira," she whispered, swiping at her face with a grubby hand. "Kira Voss. No, just Kira." He crouched in the tight space, matching her level. "Parents teach you to swipe from strangers, Kira?" The tears spilled freer. "No parents. The void sickness took them cycles ago. Left me in Lyra. She's little, only 2 cycles. Coughing blood, can't stop. The steak, it was for her." Jax's throat tightened, the words landing like a hull breach. "You're on your own, then." She bobbed her head, silver spikes quivering. "Vexery like us, not wanted on Epsilon. Command says we're bad luck, carriers. No jobs, no rations. I scavenge." Jax studied her, skin too sallow under the glow, ribs like ladder rungs. "Where you hold up?" Kira bit her lip, distrust warring with exhaustion. "Want to help?" he added softer. No bounty on my head. Hesitant, she pointed aft. Old cargo pod, level 7, sealed off. No one checks the derelicts. Jax nodded, hauling himself out and offering a hand. Come on, Kira. Let's rustle up some real grub for you and your sis. Not pilfer this time. A flicker of a grin cracked her fear, turning her from feral to fragile pretty, those amber eyes lighting like distant suns. You mad about the steak? He chuckled, pulling her up. Call it docking fees. You owe me a story instead. As they wove through the station's thrumming corridors past humming recyclers and alien traders haggling in neon-lit markets, Jax felt an itch under his skin, like the pull of uncharted hyperspace lanes. Maybe it was her grit, that spark in the eyes of someone who'd stared down the black and blinked last. Whatever, his solo orbit had just gained passengers. The derelict cargo pod clung to the station's underbelly like a barnacle on a hull, its airlock jury-rigged with scavenged seals. Jax followed Kira through the hiss of equalizing pressure, the space inside a dim nest of salvaged foam mats and flickering glow strips. In one corner, a bundle shivered under a threadbare thermal sheet. Lyra, Kira cooed, kneeling. Brought a friend. He won't hurt. The sheet stirred, revealing a miniature Kira, bright green skin dulled by pallor, silver wisps framing a face pinched with pain, amber eyes hazy with fever. A wet cough rattled from her tiny chest. 3 cycles she's been like this, Kira murmured, stroking her sister's brow. Traded my last glow crystal for cough syrup, but it's shadow water. Does nothing. Jax set down the ration packs, protein bars, nutrient paste, even a hydro fruit he'd bartered from a vendor, and knelt by the tot. Hey, Squirt. I'm Jax. You got a fighter's grip there. Lyra's eyes focused blearily, a weak gurgle escaping. You're orange, she lisped, tiny fingers poking his freckled arm. Jax barked a laugh. Guilty. And you're green as envy. Think you can handle some mush. As Kira mashed the paste and coaxed it into Lyra, Jax scoped the pod. Watertight enough, but drafty vents whistled cold from the void, and a med scanner he'd palmed from work blinked warnings. Low oxygen, radiation spikes. How long you squatting here? Full cycle, Kira said, voice steely as she wiped Lyra's chin. After Ma and Pa, Command wanted to split us. Lyra to the creche vats, me to scrap labor. Wouldn't let him, Vexery Young, stick together. Jax got it. The creche vats were glorified orphan tanks, churning out drone workers for the station's elite. He'd seen him on a dozen outposts, kids emerging hollow-eyed. Wise dodge, but this tin can's no nursery for a wheezer. Kira's gaze sharpened. Vexery ain't welcome since the quota wars. Commander's edicts, emissions controls they call him, rounding up the undocumented for off-station relocation. Relocation? Jax echoed, brow furrowing. Kira leaned in, voice a hiss. Reprocessing plants on the rim worlds. Whispers say it's worse. Forced labor in the gas mines. No air, no light. Her amber eyes darted to the pod's viewport, where Vortrex 7 roiled like judgment. We stay hidden, Jax, or they drag us to the dark. A low thrum vibrated the deck. Patrol drones, their sensor whine probing the lower levels. Frack, Jax muttered, cracking the pod's outer cam feed on his wrist pad. 3 command skiffs hovered outside the derelict cluster, armored figures in void suits rappelling onto hulls. They're sweeping, Kira breathed, scooping Lyra close. The tot whimpered, sensing the spike in fear. Jax's pulse kicked into overdrive, old pilot instincts firing. Grab the essentials. We're ghosting. How? Drones at every hatch. He flashed a rogue's grin, the kind that had gotten him court-martialed once. Not every. These old pods got emergency dumps, straight to the service rings. I flew blockade runners. I know the blind spots. Kira stuffed a satchel while Jax bundled Lyra against his chest, her heat seeping through his jumpsuit like a warning flare. The kid burned hotter than a thruster coil. This way, he murmured, popping a false panel to reveal a conduit chute, narrow as a coffin. Kira slid in first. Jax passed Lyra down, then wedged after, sealing the hatch. They tumbled in zero-G silence, the chute's emergency grav plates cushioning the drop to the service deck below. Boots echoed above, command grunts breaching the pod. Too late. They spilled into the service ring, a warren of pulsing pipes and flickering holoscreens, the station's veins. Jax led them to a forgotten utility lock. His mechanics override chirp green. Warehouse Bay 4. My shift spot got overrides. They crossed the exposed gantry just as shouts crackled over comms from the derelicts. Inside the bay, amid crates of spare parts, Jax barricaded a foreman's nook. Crash here till dawn cycle. No patrols hit this deep. As Kira nestled Lyra on a pallet of insulation foam, Jax clocked the fallout. Aiding undocumented vexery? That was a one-way ticket to the brig, or worse, decompression without a suit. But watching Kira hum a lilting vexery lullaby, her green fingers gentle on her sister's fevered brow, regret was a ghost that didn't haunt. Thanks, Kira whispered, amber gaze lifting. You could have spaced us. Jax shrugged, leaning against a crate. Pilots don't ditch cargo mid-jump, especially not the small stuff. Why us? You don't know vexery from vapor. He pondered, then smirked. Core World sang, the stars don't care who you are. They just test if you've got spine. Kira's lips quirked, a spark in the dim. You spacers are odd, Jax Harlan. All fire and no fear. Fear's fuel, kid. Keeps the engines hot. Already his mind plotted vectors. Med supplies, safe berths, away off this spinning trap. Lyra's coughs worsened through the rest cycle, hacking like shrapnel in her lungs. Her green skin mottled to a sickly olive, breaths whistling shallow. Void plague, Jax said, palmed her forehead, scalding. Ain't just a cough. Kira's face fractured. Ma called it star rot. Eats the lungs from inside. Pa went quick. Ma lingered, begging for vexery lung moss. Command hoards it. Says it's restricted flora for non-humans. Cure. Yeah, but... She faltered. Station Core's biovault. Locked tighter than a black hole. Commandant Reyes rations it for loyal species only. Jax synced his pad to the station's shadownet, pulling specs on Starrot. Grim reading. Untreated, Lyra had days, maybe. Then no options. We cracked the vault. Impossible, Kira protested, cradling her sister. Biometrics, drone swarms, the works. Ways in every lock, Jax cut in. Gimme a tick. He patched an encrypted line to an old contact, Ren, a sly teller and info broker who'd owed him since a smuggling run gone sideways. Harlan, your ugly mug on my line? What's the burn? Need vault blueprints, Ren. Bio vault, level 1. Silence, then a chuckle like grinding gears. Sick, yeah? Or stupid? Friends, kid. Vexery. Starrot. Ren's tone sobered. Heard the sweeps? Reyes is purging him, calling it biohazard quarantine. Words out, you're tangled. Jax's grip tightened. Blueprints. Make it square. Your vintage quorum stash. All of it. Done. Send them. Back inside, Kira was murmuring vexery chants over Lyra, a melody like distant pulsar beats that tugged at Jax's chest. Got ingress, he said, but Lyra needs a sitter while we raid. I'm not leaving her. Kira's eyes blazed. And you know the moss we need. No choice, Spark. I got a line on a dock. Half a cycle later, they rapped on a nondescript hatch in the trader's loop. It slid open to a stout human woman, late 40s, salt and pepper buzz cut, lab coat over a pistol holster. Jax Harlan, she drawled, scarred lip curling. Trouble's your co-pilot, I swear. Mira Voss. Always a joy. Her eyes flicked to Kira, then the bundled Lyra. In quick. Smells like SECs on your tail. Dr. Voss, no relation to Kira's dropped surname, Jax hoped, probed Lyra with a field scanner. Starrot mid-stage. Needs vexery lung moss infusion, stat. Can I stabilize? Hour tops. Jax nodded. Till we snag it. Myra's gaze pinned him. Biovault? Reyes's fortress. Yup. She snorted, rigging in 4-drip. Idiot run. Kid stays, you two ghost careful. As they geared up, Jax in his jumpsuit, Kira in an oversized enviro suit, Kira knelt by Lyra, whispering vows. Jax's jaw set. He'd seen too many runs end in cold storage. Not this one. Why all in? Kira asked outside, amber eyes searching. For ghost you just met. Jax mulled, then grinned crooked. Spacer's code. You don't leave a flare in the black unanswered. That's it? Code. The air hummed with unvoiced currents. Nah, got a soft spot for green-eyed firecrackers. Her cheeks flushed a brighter lime. Vexery, say stars weave fates in the glow. Yours is tangled with ours, Jax Harlan. Flattery'll get you moss. He checked his multi-tool, stunner tucked in a seam. Let's crack a vault. The bio-vault tunnels wormed under the station's core, lit by biolum strips that pulsed like veins, air thick with sterile chill and faint floral notes. Jax and Kira ghosted per Rin's holos, mag boots silent on the grating. Vault's one level up. Jax breathed, pad glowing. Via the cryo-lift shaft. Kira nodded, silver spikes flattened under her hood, suit baggy but her steps sure. They hit the shaft clean, Jax boosting her up before climbing, muscles burning from the hall. Prying the access doors, they slipped into a sterile corridor, vault doors looming like judge's gavel. Lighter guard than build, Jax noted, edging along. Night cycle. Most species crash harder than humans. The Vexery Flora wing hummed quiet, but the lock panel blinked red. Retinal scan, gene key. Frack. Authorized only. Footfalls echoed. Sharp, deliberate. Jax yanked Kira into an alcove, body shielding hers, heart thumping against her back. A figure rounded in, tall, lithe, skin a deep sapphire blue that shimmered like oil on water, cropped raven hair framing sharp features, violet eyes piercing the gloom. Her Envirotech jumpsuit hugged, curves honed by 0G. Badge reading Senior Engineer Elaricade. Vexery markings traced her collar. High status. I sense company, she purred, voice like silk over steel. Step out, or I trigger silent alarm. Jax emerged, Kira peeking. Easy. No harm meant. Alara's violet gaze widened at the human. A core worlder in restricted biospace. Lung moss, Kira blurted. For my sister. Stara. Alara's poise cracked, recognition dawning. The vent orphans from the sweeps. And you're aiding. Gonna rat us? Jax tensed, hand near stunner. Instead, Alara's lips curved, a smile like a plasma arc, dazzling, dangerous. Elaricade, she said, keying the panel. And I've awaited fools bold enough to challenge Reyes. Inside the vault, flora bloomed in cryotubes. Luminescent vines, spore pods. Alara harvested moss with deft hands. Documenting Reyes's quotas, she explained. Withholding Vexery meds. Faking contamination, logs for deportations. Why torch your career? Her hands stilled. Cousin purged last cycle. Denied rebreather mods for non-standard lungs. Some deaths demand payback. Handing the moss vial, her fingers grazed Jax's. A spark, literal, her blue skin humming faint static. He caught her scent. Ozone and wild orchids. This heals her, Alara told Kira. But bolt this station. Reyes greenlights the purge at dawn. Vexery to the gas rigs. Purge. Kira paled. Mass shuttles to Vortex depths. I'm extracting data to leak to the Alliance. Alarms wailed sudden, red lights strobing. Breach detected. Alara snapped. My override flagged. Move. Back to the shaft, but bulkhead slammed. My lab. Emergency vent, Alara led to a sleek quarters. Holoscreens aglow with schematics, a Neuralink chair. She yanked a drive, downloading. Lock override in 4 mics. Jax barred the door. As Alara brushed past for a go bag, their bodies collided, her warmth electric against his. Violet eyes met brown, air crackling. Never figured a human for rebel spine, she murmured. Never met a Vexery who lit up like a shorted wire. Jax rasped, voice gravel. Tension shifted, urgent to intimate. Alara closed the gap, blue skin flushing indigo. Vexery lore, sparks forge in the void's heart. The kiss ignited. Her lips cool fire, tasting of storm and spice. A current zipping where they touched, sinking pulses. Jax's hands mapped her back, her nails raking his scalp. Alarms blared reminder. Passage, Elara gasped, breaking. Trader decks. Meet at your hole up, 90 mics. Jax memorized chords. As they poised at the vent, Elara gripped his arm, violet intense. You reignite what's dimmed. Fight smart, Harlan. She kissed him fierce, brief lightning, then vanished into shadow. Jax touched lips, tingling, before Kira tugged. Door. Dr. Voss's hatch side opened to Jax and Kira. Moss vial clutched. Lyra dozed, coughs eased by stabilizer. Cutting it fine, Mira grunted infusing. Lungs sealing, full mend in cycles. Jax paced, viewport scanning for Elara. Streets, decks, buzzed empty under curfew drones. She'll dock, Kira soothed. 80 mics in, a coded knock. Cargo craving a pilot's touch. Jax cracked it. Elara, civvies clinging like second skin. Violet eyes locking his smile sly. Slipped the net. Bio decks in meltdown. She froze at shadows, stirring. 3 Vexarian cloaks, faces etched with circuit tattoos. Engineer Cade. The lead growled. Lean female with crimson streaks in blue hair. We've tracked your signal. Syl, Elara nodded. Ow! Netwebs, Syl said, violet eyes narrowing on Jax. A human? Tangled mess. He sparked the breach, Elara defended. Save the orphans. Syl appraised Jax, suspicion thick. Cell doesn't loop outsiders. Lucky I'm no loop not. Jax quipped easy. Mira cleared throat from Mednook. Tots perking, moss taking. Syl softened fraction. Heard of the Weezer. That's why we ghosted. But core for the data dump to Alliance. Secured, Elara affirmed. Kids first, though. Can't. A male cellmate cut. Reyes fast tracks purge, dawn strike. Chill rippled. Jax's mind vectored. Transport out in 2 hours? Slot the kids, dock, Elara. Syl balked. Priorities data. Cade's tag could snag us. Not sans her, Jax stated flat. Alara's hand on his arm. Warm surge. Jax no, all or null. Standoff hung. Syl relented. Fine. Essentials only. We roll. Scree to crowd. Cycled with all species. Built this spin. Can't abide kids gasped for skin. Human chorus assented. Then aliens joined. My trade partner Vexary vanished post-med scan. Crewmate 2. Testimonies cascaded, fear fractured. Thorn to Reyes, ashen. Policies boomerang, sir. Mutiny. Reyes snarled. Order. Guards wavered. Eyes split. Spire screens flared. Alliance seal. Silence dropped. Rep. Epsilon citizens. Reviewed quota violations. Equal access breaches. Reyes suspended. Thorn interim. Feed to Elara. Lyra perky in arms. Jax's heart soared. Detainees free. Probe team in 12 cycles. Reyes Hall dazed. Chaos bloomed. Thorn freed humans. Detained commandant. Mid-fray, Jax Kira swarmed by thanks. Now, Kira clutched hand. Jax grinned. Elara Lyra, homecoming. 3 cycles on. Launch bay thrummed as Alliance shuttle docked. Jack's heart raced. Hatch. Elara, Lyra scampering. Tot launched. Jax. He scooped, twirl laugh. Kira piled in, trio tight. Elara closed, violet shimmering. Jax drew, kiss eloquent of voids crossed. Orbit secured, he breathed. Orbit, she echoed, testing. Ours. Strolled decks under Thorn's equity. Elara briefed. Reyes trials inbound. Alliance mandates hybrid council. Hand squeeze. They tap me for infralead. Kids. Smile bloomed. Shared custody, your sign? Jax halted, facing full. Proposing a crew. Engineer. Crews formed. Glancing at Kira Lyra, vending glow crystals. Officialize. He pulled close, her fit perfect despite blues greens. Affirmative. Kiss sealed. Jax mused path. Swipe stake. Bold orphan. Tyrant toppled. Sparking engineer. Chaos birthkin. Kira tugged. Vendors got stakes. Terran real. Laugh boomed. Origin recalled. Only one co-pilot? Amber twinkled. Reckon I do. As family. Human. Vexary. Kin by forge. Ambled. Jax sent stellar rightness. Hearts chart odd lanes, but true north calls. Jax Harlan leaned against the bulkhead of the newly repurposed habitat ring on Epsilon Station, the hum of revitalized life support systems vibrating through his boots like a distant heartbeat. It had been 3 cycles since Elder Thorne's ascension to interim command, and the station, once a cold, stratified spin of quotas and quiet cruelties, now pulsed with tentative renewal. Mixed species crews laughed in the vendor alleys. Vexery traders hawked luminescent crystals alongside human synth meat carts, and even the grumbling Grun mechanics shared tools without a tentacle twist of suspicion. But Jax knew better than most. Peace in the black was like a faulty seal. Hold it too tight, and it burst. Kira skipped ahead, her emerald skin catching the recycled sunlight from the atrium lamps, silver spikes bouncing as she tugged Lyra's hand. The toddler's cough had faded to a faint echo, her amber eyes wide with wonder at the bustling market. Alara walked beside Jax, her sapphire form a study in graceful tension, violet eyes scanning the crowds with the precision of an engineer plotting thrust vectors. Her hand brushed his, sending that familiar static spark dancing up his arm, a reminder of bonds forged in cryo-chambers and stolen kisses amid alarms. "Steak first," Jax declared, nodding toward the vendor stall where a grizzled Terran exile flipped slabs on a plasma grill. The air sizzled with savory char, a far cry from a nutrient paste that had sustained him through lean halls. "Then we scout that new observation deck Thorne promised." Kids earned a view of the storms. Kira spun, grinning like she'd just outmaneuvered a drone patrol. "With the glow vines? Lyra loves them. They light up when she giggles." The tot cooed agreement, clutching a pilfered glow crystal that pulsed in rhythm with her tiny breaths. Alara's lips curved, a rare softness cracking her analytical facade. Thorne's reforms include vexery flora integration. The vines will thrive here. Nitrogen levels stabilized last cycle. Jax chuckled, slinging an arm around her waist, ignoring the curious glances from passersby. Human vexery pairings were still novelty fodder for station gossip, but after the purge's fallout, novelty beat notoriety. "Always the specs, love. Can't a spacer just enjoy the shine?" Her flush deepened to indigo, and she leaned into him, the contact humming with unspoken promises. "Specs make the shine possible, Harlan. Without them, we'd all be drifting wrecks." They claimed a table under the atrium's Fostar canopy, the vendor delivering platters heaped with steak, hydro veggies, and a side of spiced lumen rice that glowed faintly under UV. Kira dove in with the enthusiasm of someone who'd once bartered scraps for survival, while Lyra mashed her portion into abstract art on her plate. Jax savored his bite, the juiciness an anchor to simpler orbits, before the stolen steak, before the vault raid, before Alara's kiss had rewritten his flight log. But as laughter rippled around the table, Jax's wrist pad chirped, a priority ping from Miravas's clinic. He glanced at it discreetly, brow furrowing. "Doc's got to consult. Says it's urgent. Something about residual quota logs." Alara's eyes sharpened. Reyes's ghosts. Thorne's audit team flagged anomalies yesterday. Unfinished business. Kira paused mid-chew, amber gaze flicking up. "Like the ones that got Ma and Pa? The fake contamination stamps?" Her voice held that old edge, the one that spoke of nights huddled in derelict pods. Jax reached across, ruffling her silver spikes. "Old code, kid. We're rewriting it." But the ping nagged a loose bolt in his gut. Reyes was in cryo-lockdown awaiting Alliance trial, but tyrants left echoes, subroutines in the system, loyalists in the shadows. After the meal, Kira insisting on paying with a crystal she'd found, Jax suspected a sleight of hand from her vent rat days. They wandered to the observation deck. The platform jutted like a needle from the station's spine, viewports spanning the roiling majesty of Vortrex 7. Plasma storms lashed the gas giant's bands in electric fury, auroras bleeding into the void like spilled fuel. Lyra pressed her nose to the glass, breath fogging it in delighted puffs, while Kira traced storm patterns with a finger, narrating vexery myths of star beasts devouring worlds. Alara stood at Jax's side, her hand in his, static weaving between their fingers. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Chaotic equilibrium. He nodded, pulling her closer. Like us. Thought I'd end my days wrenching drones, not playing family man to green gremlins and a blue spark plug. She turned, violet eyes locking his with that intensity that still short-circuited his thoughts. Regrets. Nah. Best detour I ever flew. Their kiss was slow, the storm's rumble underscoring the quiet thunder between them. A vow renewed in the face of infinity. But the idyll shattered with a station-wide chime. Alert! Alliance delegation inbound. All personnel to muster points for integration briefing. Jax's pad lit again. Mira, get to clinic now. Found something in the logs. It's bigger than quotas. Alera's face hardened. Reyes didn't act alone. The purges were funded off-station backers. Kira scooped Lyra, determination etching her young features. We go. Family sticks. The clinic nestled in the trader's loop, a converted cargo hold now humming with hybrid medtech. Human neural scanners jury-rigged to Vexery bio-glow analyzers. Mira Voss bustled from a holoterm, her buzz-cut disheveled, scarred lip twisted in a scowl. Took you long enough, Harlan. And bring the spark. Alera, your creds will help parse this. She waved them to a secured nook, screens flickering with encrypted data streams. Spill, Jax said, settling Lyra on an exam stool with a toy drone. Mira synced her pad, projecting a web of transaction logs. Creds flowing from Epsilon's coffers to shadowy RimWorld accounts, tagged with code phrases like Purity Protocol and Species Safeguard. Reyes was the face, but the wallet? Syndicate, Nebula Cartel. They're the ones pushing anti-Vexery edicts across the rim. Quotas here were a test run for wider relocations. Gas mines, sure, but whispers of full-spectrum wipes. Alera leaned in, violet eyes narrowing as she cross-referenced. These vectors, they're routing through unregistered relays. Pirate lanes. Her fingers danced over the hollow, pulling threads. Look, funds tied to a black market bioweapon lab on Draken 4. Stara wasn't natural, it was seeded. Kira gasped, clutching Lyra tighter. Ma, Pa, they said it came from the vents, but her voice cracked, old wounds reopening. Jax's fists clenched, pilot's fire igniting. Cartels playing God with plagues? Thorn needs this yesterday. Mira nodded grimly. Alliance delegation's your vector. But there's a snag. The lead rep? Cartel plant. I flagged it in the pre-brief, but Thorn's too green, thinks it's diplomacy. Alera's skin pulsed indigo, anger's hue. We intercept. Leak the logs pre-muster. But as they plotted, the clinic's outer hatch hissed, unannounced. Jax's hand dropped to his stunner, concealed in his jumpsuit. Instrode a figure cloaked in neutral grays, tall, hooded, with the subtle iridescence of a chameleon skin suit. The hood fell back, revealing a face Jax knew from Wanted Holos. Zara Voss, Myra's estranged sister, a ghost from Jax's smuggling days. Her skin was pale as station alloy, eyes steel gray, cropped hair a stark white from neural implants. Mira, she said, voice flat as Nulgi. Heard you were digging graves. Need a shovel. Myra's scar twisted deeper. Zara, last I heard, you were cartel enforcer, not family reunion. Zara's gaze swept the room, lingering on Alera and the girls with clinical detachment. Reformed. Mostly. Alliance sent me to audit, off books. Your logs ping my net. Cartel's deeper than you think. They've got hooks in Thorn's council. Jax stepped forward, stunner half drawn. And you're the cure? Last we crossed, you spaced my co-pilot for a bad deal. Zara's lips quirked. No warmth. That was business. This is survival. Cartel's cooking a big one. Eclipse Protocol. Bioagent, airborne, targets non-human DNA. Epsilon's ground zero for deployment. Delegations cover to seed it. Lyra whimpered, and Kira hushed her, amber eyes blazing accusation. Alera's analysis snapped. The relays, they're delivery vectors. Muster points are perfect dispersal hubs. Chaos coalesced in a plan. Zara's insider access to the delegation shuttle. Alera's engineering hacks to spoof the logs. Myra's med clinic as safe house. Jax's piloting for exfil if it blew. Kira insisted on comms relay. I'm small, Vince a my lane, while Lyra stayed bunkered with a sedative patch. As the muster loomed, tension crackled like pre-jump static. Zara cornered Jax in the corridor. "You trust me?" After Kale, his lost co-pilot, he met her gray stare. "Don't, but I trust the void to punish liars. Screw us, and it will." The central spire thrummed with assembled crews, 1,000 strong, a mosaic of species under the vast dome. Thorn, his Zarathian robes swirling, addressed the throng from a podium, holographic alliance seals floating above. "Integration begins today." Epsilon is beacon, but Jax's earpiece buzzed, Kira from her vent perch. Eyes on rep. Zara's mark. Implant glow under collar. Shuttle bay's hot. Drones arming vials. Alara, at a service console, whispered. Log spoofed. Thorn's pad just lit. He's stalling. Zara moved like smoke through the crowd, her chameleon suit blending with the press. Jax shadowed, heart pounding in sync with the station's pulse. The rep, a slick Andorian with 2 perfect scales, signaled subtly, and 2 aides peeled toward the shuttle bay. "Go." Jax hissed into comms. He broke into a jog, weaving through the masses, stunner hot against his thigh. Bay access sealed behind security fields, but Alara's hack chirped green on his pad. Inside, the shuttle loomed, sleek black, cartel mods evident in the underbelly vents. Zara was already there, wrestling an aide into a choke, vial shattering in a hiss of inert foam. Thank the stars for fail-safes. The second aide lunged, hyponeedle gleaming. Jax tackled, the impact jarring his ribs. "Eclipse," he growled, pinning the Andorian. "Talk." The aide spat scales. Too late. "Seeds in the air recyclers. By dawn, Epsilon's a tomb for your greens." Alarm klaxons wailed, breach detected. Jax zip-tied the aide, snagging the remaining vials. Zara yanked him up. "Recycler's main, level 9. Your girls." "Secured." Kira's venting a purge. They sprinted conduits, station quaking as Thorn's voice boomed evacuation protocols. Kira's voice crackled. "Vents clear, vials in medlock." But shadows moving. Cartel ghosts. Jax's blood-iced. Lyra. Back at the clinic, Mira barricaded with Lyra, but the hatch buckled under plasma cutters. 3 heavies in void black armor. Visors blank. Harlan's brats first. One grunted, breaching. Mira fired her med pistol. Stun burst felling one, but the others swarmed. Jax burst in, stunner blazing, dropping the lead. Zara covered, her implant-linked pistol whispering silenced rounds. The last heavy lunge for Lyra's cradle. Kira dropped from a ceiling vent, crystal shard slashing his hose, vacuum suck choking him out. Panting, Jax scooped Lyra, safe, stirring. "Good drop, co-pilot." Kira beamed, silver spikes wild. Alara's calm. Recyclers purged, agent neutralized. Thorn's got the reps in custody. But Zara's face paled, scanning her pad. Not over. Eclipse was decoy, real payloads in the storm probes. Cartels launching from auxiliary bay. Orbital strike vector. Vortex's magnetospheral amplify the dispersal. The auxiliary bay clung to Epsilon's ass end, a forgotten spur for junk haulers. Jax hot-wired a cargo skiff, old piloting reflexes firing as Zara fed cords. Alara rode shotgun, hacking probe overrides mid-flight. 3 birds inbound, warheads laced. Kira monitored from clinic. Lyra's fine, Myra's locking down. The void yawned black, Vortex's storms a maelstrom below. Jax's hands dance controls, skiff weaving probe fire, blast blooming silent in vacuum. Lock 1, override firing. Alara crowed, her hack frying a warhead's guidance. Zara picked off another with tractor beams, but the third veered evasive, magnetics pulling it toward the giant's fury. "Ram it," Jax growled, throttling pursuit. "Too hot, storm will shred us." Alara's eyes met his, violet fierce. Not without fight. Her fingers flew, final hack bridging to the probe's core. Collision loomed, alarm screaming hull stress. Jax yanked yoke, skiff grazing the probe. Alara's code uploading like a virus. The warhead stuttered, veering wild into Vortrex's bands, detonating in a plasma flower that lit the void. Cheers erupted over comms. Thorn's voice, threat neutralized. Epsilon stands. Debris cooled. They docked shaky, crew piling out to embraces. Thorn clasped Jax's shoulder. Alliance owes you a fleet. But Zara lingered, gray eyes unreadable. Cartels crippled here, but rims their nest. Eclipse was test, bigger storms brew. She nodded to Alara. Spark plugs got my frequency. If you vector my way. Alara's indigo pulse steadied. Allies Voss. No more ghosts. Cycles blurred into stability. Alara headed station infra, her designs greening the rings with vexury gardens. Jax traded wrenching for flight instruction, teaching Kira evasive maneuvers in sim pods, her natural flair earning grins. Lyra toddled into mischief, her glow chasing shadows. Mira mended the wounded, Zara vanishing into Alliance shadows but pinging updates. Cartel fractures, trials looming. Yet voids whisper. 6 cycles post, Jax's pad lit. Anonymous relay. Harlan. Loose end. Draken 4. Eclipse 2 deploys dawn. Coordinates attached. Payback for Kale. Zara's ghost. Or trap. He showed Alara, her face set. We ended. Family vectors together. Kira overheard. Amber blazing. I'm in. Vince taught me traps. Lyra, oblivious, hugged his leg. Zoom. Draken, 4 loomed. A jagged rock orbiting a pulsar. Cartel's bioforge hidden in canyons. Jax piloted a borrowed Alliance scout, cloaked, nimble. Alara on sensors, Kira on drone swarm. Mira patching from Epsilon. Zara rendezvoused in a dust-choked hangar, her white hair dusted rust. Kale's marker, real. Cartel boss, Vexer Kane, greenlit it all. He's here, prepping fleet-wide seed. Infiltration, cloaks through canyons, pulsar winds howling. Kira's drones scouted, labs bubbling plague vats. Kane's throne in neural spire overlooking the abyss. He's jacked in, Alara whispered, hacking perimeter. Mind link to the net, controls dispersal sats. Jax's stunner hummed. We unplug him. Breach. Alarms wailed as they stormed the spire. Kane's guards. Augmented brutes, swarming. Jax dance fire, stunner dropping 2. Zara's precision calls 3. Kira vented micro-drones. EMP bursts frying implants. Alara reached the throne. Kane, a hulking hybrid of flesh and chrome, eyes glowing data streams. Harlan, he rasped, neural whips lashing. You stole my test. Now, claim the storm. Duel ignited, whips cracking, Jax dodging with pilot grace. Zara flanked, pistol barking, Kane's armor shrugged it. Alara jacked in counterhack, her violet glow sinking with the spire's pulse. Hold him, Pain lanced, whip scoring Jax's side, but he closed, stunner to temple. For Kale. Burst, Kane slumped, link severed. Sats purged, labs torched. Evac under pulsar fire, scout limping to jump. Back on Epsilon, scars mended, Jax proposed under the glow vines. Ring of vexury crystal, human alloy. Alara's yes sparked eternal. Kira crew chiefed their first family haul. Lyra's laughter lit the lanes. Years spun. Epsilon bloomed. Cartel crumbled under trials. Jax and Alara's orbits wove tighter. Sparks to flame, voids to home. In the black, fates tangle unexpected but true north? That's family, forged in fire and found in the glow.